made possible by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you.
It's everywhere you look.
You cannot walk down the street without being bombarded.
They call it a clutter crisis.
Consumers are like roaches. You spray them, and after a while it doesn't work anymore. We develop immunities.
And the multi-billion-dollar advertising industry is in a desperate struggle to break through.
We don't just come forward with what we want to sell. We engage you with things that you want.
Advertisers have blurred the line between programming and product.
It's advertising that people not only will tolerate, but will actually go in search of.
The way God and Madison Avenue intended.
But how is advertising affecting our lives and the world around us?
Once a culture becomes entirely advertising friendly, it ceases to be a culture at all.
Tonight on Frontline.
I'm sure people ask me this all the time. What about the environment?
Correspondent Douglas Rushkoff takes you inside the changing world of the persuaders.
Spring night in New York City. Two men hunt for just the right building.
We're always looking for a new wall to kind of do our thing on.
They may not look it, but these guys are preparing a guerrilla operation.
Kind of just scope out for a good location, and wherever we end up, we end up. This is where we're going in this construction site right here.
At last they find the building they've been looking for. They line up the target in their sights. What's this covert mission all about? It's a new kind of urban warfare. A sneaker company's all-out battle for our attention.
You cannot walk down the street without being bombarded. You stand in an elevator looking at advertising in the corner of the elevator car, and you go to play golf, and you go to pick the ball up out of the cup, and there's an ad in the bottom of it, and you look up at the sky, and there's skywriting, and you look at a bus passing, and there's advertising, and you walk in Times Square, and you go, is this Las Vegas on the Hudson? Am I trapped inside a pinball machine?
Welcome to the new American metropolis. Somewhere beneath all these ads is the city I grew up in. But over the last 20 years, it's grown a second skin, a twinkling membrane of commercial messages. Advertisers have become prospectors for new space in an ever more crowded landscape. Even a subway tunnel becomes the backdrop for an American Express promotion. But advertisers have a big problem. The more messages they create, the more they have to create to reach us. It's led to a vicious circle of clutter.
They are the ones who make clutter. They are therefore also the ones who are always trying desperately to break through the clutter. That's the line you always hear in ad agencies. We can break through the clutter with this. Well, every effort to break through the clutter is just more clutter.
I have a quote in my book from an advertising executive who says consumers are like roaches. You spray them, and after a while it doesn't work anymore. We develop immunities.
So what's an advertiser supposed to do? Stop advertising? That's the one thing they know they can't do, because the moment they stop trying to persuade us, we forget about them.
Once you're in the game, you can't stop, if for no other reason that the competition will eat you alive.
What advertising has always wanted to do is not simply to suffuse the atmosphere, but to become the atmosphere. It wants us not to be able to find a way outside of the world that it creates for us.
So this is the way our world fills up with advertising. For years I've been studying and writing about what I call the persuasion industry. I've even worked in it. But I still can't say for sure where all this is headed. Where will the advertising arms race lead? To a world made of marketing? And what would that mean for us? I set out on a tour through the modern machinery of selling to meet some of the persuaders up close. My first stop? A downtown New York storefront.
I'm not singing.
I've been invited to a hip party. Or something that looks like one. What this really is the opening salvo in a marketing blitz for a new airline. They call themselves Song. Song is a subsidiary of Delta Airlines, but you won't find any mention of Delta here. Delta is old-fashioned air travel, and Song is their way of persuading us that they can compete with hip, low-cost carriers like JetBlue.
A lot of people ask us, you got to be crazy. You're starting an airline in the worst environment in the U.S., in the history of U.S. commercial aviation. And we were, and we are.
That process gets more and more complex.
Delta broke off a team of their best marketers and told them to start from scratch.
Also, what's the kind of the creative idea that runs through each of these?
The first thing the Song team decided was that it wasn't enough just to launch a new airline. To get our attention, they had to invent a new culture around flying.
Which is to sort of capture consumers' imagination by...
But how do you do that?
Talk to me a little bit about why you chose the things you did. And
Song started with a trusted tool, the focus group.
the homework was choose images, words, things that capture what might be your ideal experience of traveling by air.
Before long, Song's research yielded a nugget. There was a large group of flyers whose needs and desires were being ignored. Women.
The food, I think they could improve a lot.
It was an incredible insight to say that this could be the first airline that had, a real, understanding, much deeper understanding of women and women's interests.
The Song team created a detailed profile of their target consumer, and even gave her a name, Carrie.
She's got 3 children, a husband. They both work. They have an SUV and a sports car, Neiman Marcus credit cards, but she shops at Target. She has got a propensity to read kind of high-end literature, but she finds guilty pleasure in People magazine, and she doesn't have an airline.
Song would have low fares, organic food, and more entertainment options, but most importantly, it would forge a real connection with women.
That's what they're going to look like. Excellent.
To pull that off, Song turned to a pro, Andy Spade. Spade is the co-creator of the Kate Spade Company, a multi-million-dollar line of fashion accessories that caters to women like Carrie.
I think early on when you're shaping a new brand, you need those brand visionaries. He's got a gift, and he's had it from the very first time we started working with him, and that's why we love him so much.
What are they going to do in this day?
He gets us more than we get ourselves.
The 8-track player and this TV.
I bring ideas, kind of visualize ideas that companies have and give them kind of a substance and a texture and a life that they may not know how to create. And I bring that, I take their idea or their point of view, and I try to create this make it into something that's bigger, maybe emotional, maybe optimistic, maybe classical, maybe, happy.
I think that I'll just start by introducing kind of the concept and what it is. And,
Spade's been charged with producing Song's TV campaign, the first impression the airline will make on many Americans.
All right, so why don't we start? Really create a campaign for Song that was spirited, that delivered on the benefits that we think are the most important. Do it in a way that's emotional. Do it in a way that I think is optimistic, because we believe that's part of the Song ethos. So we're going to take you through 5 different concepts and 5 different commercials that deliver on 5 different benefits which we believe differentiate Song from everyone else.
Spade is proposing to downplay the airline's new features in favor of something much more intangible, its soul.
There's a book called Lovers here, which I don't know if any of you are familiar with the book Lovers. I'll pass it around. But there's these sweet, sweet images. We were kind of inspired by this a few times of just people together, and mainly Godard and Truffaut movies and all those old French New Wave films, and then their American films.
When you're alone and life is making you lonely, you can always go downtown.
Spade's commercials will show no planes, no travelers, no low fares, no airline.
Downtown.
This is an enormously risky strategy. These commercials, as planned, will consume almost a third of Song's $12 million marketing budget. If the campaign doesn't connect, Song will just become part of the noise, and Delta, at the brink of bankruptcy, cannot afford for its new venture to fail. At least one member of Song's team is nervous.
Well, the risk is you invest an inordinate amount of money behind a message that is a fairly ethereal message that, as they say, doesn't feed the bulldog. I mean, this is a business. This isn't an art form. So we have got to ensure that it's communication that drives commerce, not just makes people feel good. The number one purchase driver for this category is, in fact, first price. The strategy is the everyday low-priced airline that happens to have more style and everything else that we're doing.
The more we pulled back and tried to make it a very, very kind of literal delivery on a benefit, it lost that emotion, and we wanted to keep that emotion.
Spade isn't backing off. He's not content just to convey information. He's aiming for something bigger.
At the end of the day, you want to become a part of culture, and when you get to that point, you've created a huge success. And that's what all the great, I think, companies have done, from Virgin to Apple to others.
I think by spending 25 seconds on